This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Thursday, September 10th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So definitely looking at a pretty weak pre-market going on out there. There's really not much that's moving at all, but we do have a few things for us to be looking at. Now, the first thing, I wouldn't typically put NKLA on one of our on our morning list because of the fact that it's not one of the cliff notes. It usually that's a pretty big story, but the one thing about it is it's one of the only things that are trading. The story is really not that hard to interpret. So we can see this morning coming in, we had a few ask prints that came in at 350. We have some selling that came in. There's not really anything that's that definitive. So really what we're looking at is what we saw yesterday at this 40 level. That 40 showed some huge buying to come in. There was not enough selling for this, for that person to be able to get out, and just not enough because of the amount of shares that they were showing. So the fact that it came underneath 40, this move technically should have happened yesterday in the afternoon before we even went into the aftermarket. Okay, but the amount of buying that we saw, this is just not enough so far for its pullback. So really what I'm going to be looking for, because we have that buying that's at 39.50, we're not really going to see that jump up first. With these riders coming in, I'm really going to be looking for the short first. The short for them to be able to build, and then obviously us to come back towards that 40 level. I'm not convinced whatsoever that they've been able to build enough underneath this 40 from what they showed us from yesterday. So definitely going to be watching that one very closely. I know OSTK, as we started our meeting, started kind of going off. So let's take a look at what we have in our print. So we have 78, we have 78.50, 79. 78.50. So really what we're going to be looking for with this one is obviously volume needs to get a little bit, get a little bit higher. Right now, the volume isn't as much as you'd expect for something to go from 74 to almost 80. So overall, definitely going to be looking for a pretty substantial pullback, because look at the print personality. I mean, just nothing there whatsoever. Even on this move up, for the most part, we didn't see any type of real bigger print. So these prints are going to mean a lot, especially at 78.50, because we can see 78 got hit and then 78.50 twice. Technically not really twice, but two separate times. So we're going to be looking for this to really pull back from that 78.50. Remember, 77.50 is a big number for this, because that's one of those longer term numbers, big psychological numbers. So we're going to be seeing a little bit of games played here, but definitely falling underneath that print line before we would get any type of new buying coming in. Now we have to see the riders. The riders haven't really came in at all yet, and this is one of those stocks you're going to have to look at the smaller time in sales, because you're not going to see much really coming in on these bigger print amounts. So we definitely need to see some selling riders to come in to confirm that we're going to see that pullback coming from there, and then from that pullback we're going to be looking for a nice spot for it to hit and then trigger back up and obviously test at least that 80 based off the amount of prints we have. Technically, the amount of prints we have, it shows that it could actually break that 80 fairly easily. So definitely another thing to a real nice stock for us to be looking at, especially when it has a average range of $7.31. The only thing is I would like to see volume a little bit higher, but once we get closer to the open of the market, we should definitely see that. And then YTEN. So YTEN, this is an interesting one, because Oscar was nice enough to put those prints out there for us, but I don't see anything there that really jumps out at me. 922 to 940, maybe okay, but there's just not much buying that's sitting here at those tops. So overall, we definitely want to see more things like this, which is not going to let me go all the way back. But we have had some nice prints that came in at that 850 level the first time, and then the second time, pretty okay. I mean, they're decent. They're nothing that's that crazy, but we need to see a lot of building in this consolidation for us to actually warrant a trigger towards that upside, just because of the fact that there's not really any bigger prints up here for us to be able to follow. Now, another thing, remember, it's technically kind of getting out of that consolidation, but we haven't seen any trigger that really shows that it's time for it to release from there. So just remember, especially with those prints at 850, if we pull back again and we get a trigger up, we want that trigger to break out of the consolidation. We want to envision what this stock needs to look like to get to 10. And in order for it to get up to that 10 level, which is another really weird thing, I'm a little surprised that they didn't come up and at least closer to the 10 level. You're talking about 975. I'm surprised they didn't come closer to the 10 and really kind of test out and see what was out there. Now, it was so early, there's not many people trading, so that's the only reason it kind of makes sense, but a little bit surprised that they didn't. So pulling back underneath 850, we just want to continuously see buying in here, because like I said, the trigger can't be 10% because it's not technically triggering up. Best case scenario would really be to really show some nice prints at that 850, okay, pull back a substantial amount, pretty much to that 750 to hold, and then trigger up towards those 850. Because if it triggers right now, can't add that 10%. It's a lower percent trade because it's not really technically triggering to anything. So that trigger would have to come from actual building within the consolidation, which once again, just very mixed, and I have not seen that happening yet. So a pullback down underneath and then towards buying would definitely be our highest percentage that we're going to be looking for. And other than that, I'm pretty much at a loss. There's just not really much that's going on out there. Yes, I know Apple looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm printing just constantly, but not going to be talking about Apple first thing for the morning. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Did I talk about PZZA now? Because PZZA right now, I'm not interested in it yet. Okay, you know, it made a little bit of a move up. I know we have earnings that are coming in after the close today, but as of right this second, I don't have any interest. Too expensive and not doing anything, no real show of hand or anything there yet. So definitely something to keep on your list. I'm definitely going to watch it, but until we get some type of controlling print, just nothing there for me yet. WKHS, so that's another one where, yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it, but there's just not, well, actually, here we go. Okay, that happened afterwards. I was going to say, if you come back here and look at the prints, okay, early this morning, okay, that 25 that came in, that's really showing us that it's really going to take a lot of time to come back up towards there. So that's definitely something that you want to look at because of how early it came in, those 25 prints. And these 24 actually make a lot of sense now because to pull up from the 24, not quite to get to 25 because those are showing longer term, and then a trigger back down towards that downside. Remember, we have 20 that's sitting there, and 20 is a huge level. That thing does not just release very often. You can see that just kind of pulled away from it almost, almost immediately. So I still have that 20 in the back of my head. 20 is, a little bit far away compared to what the range usually is, but overall, it's certainly showing that we have some more room towards that downside before we'd end up getting back up there. Pretty nice one there then. Yeah, no, the prints are nice. I'm not a big fan of the actual way that it's trading, but definitely makes the list. It's just, again, WKHS has such a long history. That's not, something that I typically like to start my morning off with. I'd rather find something, but it's not there. So guess what? Makes the list. So ATNK, I was looking at this before, and the ATNX, I believe it is. Okay, problem is if you look, see when something prints this much and we start to see that and we see the way that it looks like it's trading, this thing more than likely is going to go straight into quant. I don't see anything. You could keep it on your list and see if maybe it starts trading, but when you see something like this, it's just not going to end up being a very smooth trade at all because, its print personality showing whenever it really does print, and they're big prints, it's just not really trading at all. So it hasn't really got the opportunity to print and show us consistently that this is what it's going to look like. So yeah, there's just not really anything there. There's just better stuff to be looking at this morning. All right, guys, remember that we have our group trade evaluation at 12:30 today. Make sure that you guys get those in. I will talk to everyone in the chat, and happy trading.